Hi there, folks. Happy Wednesday. It is a scorcher here in Minnesota. It's just now the 1st of July, and I feel like it's the end of August. It's so humid. I hope you are doing all right and that you are finding new ways to be creative, to be of service to others, and be engaged with the community, even if from a distance. It's been an incredibly hard few weeks, and our prayers for our church community have never stopped. So, this is the next to last midweek message for a while. After next Wednesday, I'm going to be taking a 3-week vacation from church work. Not that I don't like you, it's just that everyone needs a break, and now it's our time. So, after next week, I'll be back in August, hopefully with a whole new topic for our midweek messages. So, we've been making our way through different spirituality words, and today we come to a word that is a good word. It's a word that's full of promise and hope and expectation and positivity. But it's also a word that some people might find hard to utter. The word is yes. Now, last week our word was behold, and it was a word of meditation. It was an attempt to have us be more aware of the wonders of God, to pay attention to experience the miracles in our midst. But the problem is our lives aren't always mountaintop moments. Sooner or later, we have to get down to the business of living out our lives in the valleys, the plains. That's where most of us live. And this is where we find ourselves today. Back down from the mountaintop, from that moment of beholding God's wonder, we are left with a simple question to answer. Will you follow God? Now, of course, we can all follow God in different ways. One person's yes may be very different from another person's yes. All of us have what we call a divine vocation. Whether they're farmers or teachers, lawyers, scientists, homemakers, shopmakers, the invitation and vocation are there. We just need to say yes, to pray, and then to practice yes. Now, many of you are used to saying yes to churchy type things, so you may feel like you've already got this. I mean, if you're watching this right now, you've already said yes to carving out 10 minutes of your day just to hear me speak. If you watch our services each weekend, well, there's another yes. Bible study? Yes. Devotionals? Yes. Communion? Yes. Do you serve on a committee? Yes. But the truth is, we eventually need to understand that our yes should not be about an event, but it's about a daily practice. Something like maybe a friend in need on a busy day, a stranger stranded alongside the road, an enemy or an antagonist in need in the middle of a conflict. These inconveniences become opportunities to put our own agendas and comfort aside and say yes to living with Jesus and practicing our yes every day. But you know, our yes counts most when we receive mistreatment rather than praise for our efforts. To say yes to doing good and then being ignored. To say yes to doing right and then being misunderstood or criticized. To say yes to being loving and then be vilified or even crucified. This is the territory we will all be someday. This is the yes of not my will, but yours be done. All of this illustrates well for us a story that we read from the Gospel according to John. Now, you may remember the story of Peter denying Jesus 3 times before the rooster crowed, right? Well, in John's Gospel, in the last chapter, Jesus shows up on a beach, and while the disciples are fishing, he's got breakfast fixed up for them, and he calls to them, and he says, hey, you don't have any fish, do you? And they're like, no, we don't have any fish, because these are the disciples. This is what they do. And so he said, cast your nets on the other side. And he cast their nets on the other side. And sure enough, they've got another huge haul like they've done before so many times. And then they recognized it was Jesus. Well, Peter was so excited. Peter jumped out of the boat. He swam onto the beach. He left all of his friends to carry up the fish. And he gets to Jesus and they start talking. And this is the resurrected Jesus now. Jesus has died. He's come back to life. And now they're having this conversation, Jesus and Peter. It's the first one-on-one conversation they've had since Peter denied knowing Jesus. And 3 times, just like the 3 times that Peter denied Jesus, 3 times Jesus asks Peter, "Do you love me?" Now at the end of the conversation, Peter has said yes 3 times. "Yes, I love you, Lord. Oh, Lord, you know I love you." And that's usually where us pastors stop the message. But instead, Jesus goes on. And you got to get this. If you haven't heard this story, you got to understand this. So Jesus tells Peter, "Good. I'm glad you said yes now. Because if you really do love me, here's the deal. You're going to be captured and you're going to be killed for knowing me." Then get this. One more time, Jesus says to Peter, "Follow me. Follow me." Peter has said yes 3 times with his words, but now Jesus wants Peter to say yes with his whole life. And you know what Peter says in response? It's mind-boggling, really. Peter looks over his shoulder and he points to John. And he says, "But what about him?" Jesus says one more time, "Follow me." And he goes, "What about that guy?" This is the last time in John's gospel that Jesus says, "Follow me." And Peter's worried about somebody else. And that's where we're left with at the end of the gospel. Wondering if Peter is going to answer the call. Wondering if he's going to say yes to following Jesus all the way. Now, of course, we know the end of the story because we're thousands of years later. Peter does end up following Jesus. But at the end of that story, we have to sit with that question at the end of John's gospel. And it's almost like we are being asked that question. Will you follow Jesus? Have you ever pointed your finger at a neighbor or a sibling or an enemy? So, what about him? What about her? Why do you have to pick on me? As children, it happens all the time. But as adults, I would hope that we would be beyond that. And that's really where the rubber meets the road today. If Jesus were to tell you that it's going to be hard, will you still say yes? What if this pandemic continues and we don't get a handle on it? What if our church services will be online for a year or more? What if serving your brother or sister would mean taking care of those who have a different political stance than you? What if loving your neighbor meant not getting even with someone who has called you dirty, horrible names in the past? What if saying yes to Jesus means disagreeing with nearly everyone in your family? Would you still follow him? Or would you buckle under pressure? Would you ask Jesus, what about the other guy? It's easy to say yes when everything's going well. But this is our spiritual journey we're talking about. And it's not ever going to be easy. The question is, are you willing to still say yes when Jesus asks for you to follow him? Okay, that's enough for today. Just a reminder that this weekend in our worship service, we're going to be celebrating communion. So please make sure that you prep your own elements at home and join us for communion right here on this YouTube channel. Now, just a little heads up about worship services over the weekends for the month of July. We've been trying to let you know about it, but all you have to do is tune in right here onto this YouTube channel and worship service will be here for you. But we're going to go on rotation with a couple other churches and the presbytery. So Calvin Presbyterian Church in Long Lake, Minnesota is going to take our worship service on July 12th. So that'll be uploaded right here to this YouTube channel. All you have to do is just tune in and you can worship with them as their pastor, Carol Reed, is going to be leading us in that service. The following week is First Presbyterian Church in Red Wing, Minnesota. Really excited about that. Greg and Heidi Bolt, clergy couple that are down there, good friends of mine, they're going to be providing the worship service for us on the 19th of July. And then on July 26th, the Presbytery, our larger group of churches, is going to provide the worship service for all of us on July 26th, helping give pastors some much needed break. So we're really excited to be able to provide those opportunities for you. So this week, when you're tuning in and you're having communion with our church, know that we're actually going to be worshiping with Calvin and Red Wing. They're going to be tuning into our worship service this week too. This is something we can do that we've never done before, but it's because of technology we can do this. It's pretty cool. All right, now, next week will be our last midweek message for the month of July because, like I said, I'm going to go on vacation for a little while, but I'll be back again in August. Listen, we love you. I miss you terribly, but I hope that you will remain safe. I can't wait to see you again, but I want to see you in person and not in the next life. All right? I love y'all. We'll talk to you later. Peace.